Hello and welcome to the Masterclass of Restorative. Today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about stress in our society, stress and the impact on your own life, and most of all, how your stress can actually be transformed, can be a seed for unlocking potential in your life, there where you think that you are stuck and where you feel like you're just hitting a dead end and over and over and over, seem to encounter the same challenging situations, whether it's on work or in your professional life, where you seem to all the time encounter the same situations. This course is going to tell you how you can shift internally and allow those situations no longer to stress you, no longer to restrict you, but instead enable you to rise into your own power and use the energy that comes up as an opportunity to make that change happen. And the key to make that change happen is awareness, self-awareness, as well as motivation to make a change. So before we're going anywhere, I want you to take a moment to just for yourself think, why am I here? Because this why is going to help you when you are throughout the session maybe a bit uncomfortable, because learning, changing, transforming can be uncomfortable and we always have a tendency to go back to our comfort zone. This why it's going to help you to move through this, not just through this masterclass, but mostly through the changes that need to be made through the challenges that we face in our everyday, because it's not always easy, but necessary if we want to up-level ourselves and meet our reality in our most centered, most present, and most powerful way. Okay, got it? Okay. Here's your why, and now let's go through a 3-step masterclass that's going to address some of the common questions we have about this course, the deck, and the fine selection of poses and practices that we and our team have gathered for you to manage stress and move from a life of tension and worry into a life where you just feel again the joy and the excitement of becoming a better version of yourself every single day. So we're going to basically go through 3 steps, which is number 1, talking about the importance of nervous system regulation and education about this body-mind relationship. Number 2, the power of unpleasant emotions and how emotions not only reflect a current state, but how emotions often represent a deeper stored energy and reactivity in our subconscious memory, and how this presence of emotion through body awareness and through breath focus can actually be transformed into number 3, positive emotional states. So where we meet our reality with more gratitude, more enjoyment, more happiness, this has not so much to do with what is happening, but our ability to meet whatever we are experiencing. So happiness, contentment, fulfillment is not as much an external job than it is an internal awareness, and it is the growing of this capacity within yourself. Just to frame it simply, 2 people can see the same sky and they can say, oh, it's cloudy, you know, the typical half glass, half full, half empty glass, or say, oh, the sun is shining. One person can see possibility and the other one sees a possible danger and threats. This has all to do with the nervous system, and we're going to start right there. So our nervous system is a wiring through the body that is essentially just there to make you feel safe. Not just feel safe, but to make sure you're safe. And those are 2 different things. The ability to feel safe depends on person to person and actually has to do with your childhood. So the moment you are born and you come into this world, you are fully dependent on the external world. So basically, your caregivers need to make sure you survive. So our first imprint in this world, and even before that, when we are still in the womb, we're having all these impressions that are wired in the nervous system, depending on the mood of the mother, of the caregivers, and basically how they are feeling. Because we as humans, we are community creatures and we tend to feel a lot into the environment, and in those first formative years where the nervous system is being wired, in these first years where we are learning to feel, is this safe? What is safety? What do I need to survive? We are fully dependent on the external world. This makes that we as humans tend throughout our life, especially if we don't bring mindful awareness to this, we tend to just keep going with this primary focus on the external environment and what is happening around me. Now, the perception of safety makes that we are constantly trying to be safe, trying to survive, and therefore we are picking up on informations in our surroundings that will tell us, am I safe? Okay, so your body is actually the main communicator. It's your body that's constantly picking up signals around safety. And if there is an unsafety, if there is something in the environment possibly posing a threat, then the nervous system goes into a state of activation. We explain all of that in the course in depth. But essentially, the nervous system goes in a state of activation. We call this fight or flight. And we go in a state of reactivity. Well, some people have different responses depending on trauma, etc. So some people might freeze, and there's just a complex amount of hormones being released, things happening in the nervous system that make sure you survive. And what goes along with that is that we tend to go in a heightened mental activity because you need to think, what do I need to survive? What needs to happen? So you're thinking, and full focus on the external environment. Now, it is really important, this perception of safety and feeling safe, because based on our childhood, this primary priming of how do we engage with the surroundings, how do we feel safe, what kind of emotions are we experiencing on a day-to-day, this has very much to do with this first environment. And this tends to go through into the rest of our life. So if we feel threatened in some way, there is no choice. This is an important statement. So when you are feeling threatened in a certain way, you have automatic reactions that keep you safe. And most of us, we tend to live in that reactive state day to day. So we don't really know what it is to relax and restore because we just stay in this heightened state. Now, there's multiple theories on this, but a big contributor to that is that we don't know how to install safety inside of ourselves. So we rely, because of this first connection with the environment, because of a deeply rooted belief that we depend on our environment, and of course we do, but there needs to be also an investment in our inner environment, and understand that no matter what environment we grow up in, later on in our life, like now for example, you watching this class, from this moment onwards, you can learn to feel more safe. And this is a really important and big shift, is that you can spend time with yourself, learn that you are safe, and learn to understand the reactions of your nervous system that channel, that show a possible threat, and that you can actually learn to discern and say, oh, but actually no, I am safe here. Because the more reactivity you have and the more the body feels unsafe in different surroundings, especially if we have a lot of emotional storage that kind of amplifies it, then it is very hard to come into a state of peace, and we just keep running in this cycle of threat and unsafety. And what we tend to do as humans is that we tend to want to control more the environment. We say, okay, I'm unsafe, so I'm going to start to kind of control the environment, control the things around me, control what people are saying, because I don't want to feel this way inside. So I'm going to try to control it. I'm going to try to finish this assignment. If I'm going to do this and this and this, then I'm going to feel safe. But it's a vicious cycle and an unending cycle of just more and more stress, because you keep putting your sense of peace in your external environment. you keep putting your sense of fulfillment, of self-love, everything that we need in order to feel safe in the external environment, because we simply never learn to install it within ourselves. There is a beautiful saying to round this section up that basically says, you know, the ego, the mind says, once everything falls into place, then I have peace. But then the higher self, or this higher awareness that we cultivate with this course and with these practices, says, once I find peace, everything falls into place. So essentially, the deep understanding that we are perceiving our reality through this mind-body interaction, through the emotions, through essentially a perception that is formed in our first years, that is formed based on beliefs, ideas, and energies present inside of us, that we perceive the reality based on that past, and that in this present moment we can learn to see the reality differently by learning to shift in the nervous system, to balance the nervous system, to install a deep sense of safety and love within ourselves, so we can step into this world with a certain level of detachment. That means that you know that the peace, the foundation of peace and presence exists within you. So when anything happens that throws off your peace, something that's between brackets steals your peace, that makes you feel unsafe, you can actually develop this introspection where you can see, okay, is there really a threat, or is this a perceived threat? Is this threat, or does this feel threatening based on an experience I had from my past? And can I, in my present, learn to look different to that? So this is the whole foundation of the course, is to learn to see the things differently and to learn to change for the better through the challenges that are posed in our daily reality. Okay. So that's the level 1. And one last thing I wanted to emphasize or highlight in this first part about the nervous system, that is very much intertwined with sensations in the body, and that is kind of affected with both the vagus nerve, which is kind of the on-off button. I will explain more in depth in the course, but also through the breath. And when we learn to master the breath, that is also super important. But essentially, we need to learn that a lot of the threats we feel, it's not real but perceived. And our system does not know a difference between a real threat and a perceived threat. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut through the illusion of the perceived threats, and we're going to kind of upgrade our system where we learn to discern, is this really a threat, or is this a perceived threat based on some old emotional storage, some old emotional pains I am holding on to that makes this feel like a threat. Moving into the next section, everything that feels like it's a rejection can feel like it's life-threatening. So rejection feels life-threatening because of those first years where you fully relied on your surroundings. So if you feel rejected, you feel that, oh my God, I'm not going to survive this. So this is how awareness of the techniques to balance the nervous system and an understanding on the functioning of your nervous system can kind of help you to manage life situations better. Because this nervous system and these body signals channeling a danger, you can kind of compare it with a car that the sensors are off. Not off, but they are off. They're not working properly. So in this case, even if you are not even close to hit a wall or close to hit an object, the sensor is already beeping because everything feels like a threat, okay? So in this case, your sensor of danger is going on, but there's not a real danger. There's just something that's slightly remembering you of something that has happened, that has been stored, that hasn't been processed. And therefore, your sensors just go off all the time. Someone says something and it reminds you of a rejection, or it reminds you of something, and boom, you're completely with an emotional storm inside. So what this course does, what these practices do, is that when this radar goes off, instead of just relying on the sensor, you bring this awareness to it and you're gonna check. It's like a double check. The sensor is kind of nice when you are making a maneuver to know, okay, there is something close, but if you don't check, there might be nothing. So if the sensor is off and you know, okay, I am adjusting my sensor here, I am learning to expand my sense of safety through trusting myself, through looking with my own eyes and say, okay, there is nothing here. I can put my car there. Same with your body. Okay, I can get in here all these signals. Unsafe, danger. Is there really a danger? Well, no. Or even more important, this might feel dangerous because I have to, for example, speak up about what I feel. And that feels like life-threatening because in my past, I've been all the time rejected and maybe yelled at, or other forms of punishment that have been coming, whether that's conscious or unconscious, because I mean, some things can feel like a trauma, but the intention of the person was not bad. You were not just not you are not met in your needs in that moment, it can still feel very unsafe for you. And when you understand, okay, my nervous system is channeling unsafety, but that doesn't mean that I have to stop. It can mean actually that I tune in with my motivation and say, okay, but I do want to speak up, because me speaking up now is more important than the possible resistance or challenge that I'm meeting. Okay, so hence unleashing the power through understanding the censoring of unsafety in the body system, in the nervous system. And then step 2, understanding the emotions as they arise and transforming the energy of emotion, so the energy can be put in motion, emotion, and something that can be either destructive can become constructive. Because, just going into the second part, the emotions. The big mystery of the emotions, and how, this is a kind of a big statement I'm gonna make, but this is just me now working in this field for 10 years full on, speaking with thousands of people, working with many people day to day from all different backgrounds and cultures, and traveling all over the world. And what I see in the human relationship is that the reason why people want to control others and control outcomes and control, which leads to a lot of mental activity, because if you want to control a condition, it means that you are looping in scenarios, looping in possibilities, looping in a mental world, because you want to control. Therefore, you cannot trust and let go. The reason why you want to control things that are outside of your control is because you don't want to deal with the emotions that come up in you, and you have an attachment to have a positive outcome, and you have an aversion towards having a so-called negative outcome. But there are boundaries get kind of vague, and we tend to lose a lot of energy to try and control things that are outside of our control, and we lose our authenticity because we're trying to manipulate basically people to be what we want them to be for us to feel a certain way. Is that not really completely absurd? But this is the way most human beings function. And it took me many years of unraveling with myself, my own relationships, my motivations. And what I understood is, when you try to control a situation from a place of fear, from a place of unworthiness, from a place of, then you're just inviting more of that in your life. The key is intention, becoming intentional, becoming present, and basically understanding what is in your control, that is your own intentions, your own motivations, your own thoughts to a certain level, especially if you give less and less fuel and power to certain thought patterns. You just see them as visitors passing by and the awareness beyond. Your own actions and your own words. And the more you learn to control the nervous system, step one, reduce reactivity, the more choice you will have. Because we all know it, right? When a strong emotion occurs and the nervous system is activated in a fight and flight or any related responses, there's more about that in the course, then you don't have a choice. You are just reacting however you have been programmed to react to a situation, whether that's shutting down, whether that's running away, whether that's screaming, whatever you do, whatever is your go-to response to a certain scenario, unless you hack the nervous system and learn to react differently, you will end up in the same way. So how does emotional intelligence contribute to this? Is that strong emotions lead to strong reactions in your nervous system, and they will take your power away. Now, these strong emotions, and especially the so-called unpleasant emotions, can be triggered in daily life situations. And this strong emotion often is not a reflection of the current situation, but what this situation reminds you of. So if you are having a conversation with someone and suddenly you feel super angry or you feel super upset or you feel super lost, super unworthy, super fearful, super anxious, it's usually not so much to do with what is happening, but a deep memory of something similar that happened, and you are just repeating the same emotions, applying the same emotions. Now, what we do is strong emotion comes, boom, nervous system alters, boom, reaction. Then probably unpleasant outcome, because if you reacted in the same way you always react, usually those reactive patterns, they don't really lead to our most desirable outcome. We get a reaction from the other side, especially if it's an external reaction, or even just in our own way of thinking. We are just amplifying it. We're giving more power, more fuel to that behavioral pattern, to that program, you could say. How does emotional intelligence then help us? It's that you understand that what is happening is a physical sensation. So instead of going to react, you know the saying, right? Like when something intense happens, just take a few breaths. You don't want to react right away. Exactly. So you want to go and you want to learn about how does this intense energy represent itself in my body. So you want to, instead of going out of the body, out of the emotion, to the external environment, trying to control something outside, you go inside. And you learn to give a healthy outlet to this emotion. When the guilt arises, when the shame arises, when anything that comes up that feels restricting somehow, that feels unpleasant, you become resilient by learning to be with that. And instead of immediately reacting, you learn to discern what is happening. You learn to connect with the physical sensations in your body, get the energy moving. So we selected practices to get the energy moving, whether you have a numbing response, whether you have activating response, whether tension is created, whether there's a shutdown. You learn to be with that. And you learn then eventually step 3 to channel that in something constructive. So basically, just to round up this second section, strong emotions have an effect on the nervous system or trigger the nervous system in a stress response, because they are there to protect us, but they can also become very destructive when we don't go to the roots of this emotion and we constantly experience super strong emotions to the most minor things happening in your life. Well, if you experience a super joyful emotion to the smallest thing in your life, you can practice that as well. Like a huge gratitude just for opening your eyes. Imagine that. Instead of a huge breakdown from opening an email, which one you prefer? It's all practice and it's all within your power. It's all a matter of practice. And this will lead us to actually become, hopefully, so motivated, so big supporter of our own well-being and happiness. We say, okay, I'm now going to prioritize my happiness. Even if all those things happened to me in the past, I choose empowerment. I choose to become the master of my own emotional state, of my nervous system. I become a master of this body-mind connection and the way I engage with this reality. And I prioritize my peace. When you do that, every challenge becomes a window of opportunity. And you no longer reply in the same way than you did before. You choose differently. And when you choose differently, relations transform, realities transform completely. And as I said in the beginning, it's not as much about the life you're living, but how you feel about it. We in our society, we tend to chase. We chase external realities. Do you really think that having something when you don't have the capacity to enjoy it is truly enjoyable? If you don't have the capacity to enjoy something, can you enjoy something that everyone else enjoys or seems to enjoy? Because that's it. We hide our emotions, we hide the processes, and people are confusing a temporary state of pleasure with long-lasting contentment. We chase short-term things, constantly keeping us stuck in a cycle of control and fear, instead of going for long-term fulfillment in life and being in peace in our own body and our own mind, and essentially defining our own form of success and whatever that looks like. And that starts inside. And this is the third and last section of this masterclass. I hope you're enjoying it, and please, write us questions and hopefully be interested to go deeper, because this is changing humanity. This is the next level for us humans, especially with all the things that are happening, all the online life, all the mental, more thought process, more information. Do we really need more information, or can we invite simplicity and learn to enjoy the simple and beautiful things in our human existence? This is just an open question. This is also the start of our third section. That is, the ancient yogis knew. They knew what is the cause of suffering, and these are like eternal practices. This is something that is universal. Even when you go beyond the yogis and you go to all ancient cultures, there is so many similarities. And essentially what the yogis said is that our own mind, and essentially the mind, the thought process, the nervous system, everything, this is the cause of suffering, is the way we engage with life. And the yogis said, that the cure, the medicine, is in cultivating awareness in the heart, the higher self. To not be run with the programming of your ego, to not go deeper and deeper and further in the attachments of greed and jealousy and anger and separation, is like when you clear your inner space of that, it's no longer on the equation. You need to understand that those feelings of greed, anger, jealousy, the solution is not outside, because there's always ways to get more. But if you always want more, you're never going to be fulfilled. whatever that looks like for you. Fulfillment does not come from what you have, but who you are in that process. So, of course, we can find a way to try to be a better person, but if we all the time chase to be better without having a sense of contentment, we will never be fulfilled, whatever successes we achieve. So it's about this beautiful balance, and the yogis knew about the process of becoming better, whatever that looks like for you, and the ability to feel great where you are already. Contentment and discipline. And they said that it's all about developing the qualities of the heart. And they named 4. They said these are the universal principles of the heart. We can also call it elevated emotional states from a more neuroscientific point of view. But when you practice these, then the others will dissolve. The lower vibrational states, the inner challenging, the lower emotions, this energy can be used to create a different reality, one that is not fueled with fear, fear of rejection, fear of unworthiness, fear of falling short, fearing all kinds of fears that are detrimental to the health of your mind and body. Instead, they can be fueled with love, love for oneself, a wish for well-being for your own self and for all those around you, because your transformation, your happiness, your different way of engaging with reality, your deeper levels of satisfaction, they will be the greatest gift for all that you love, because all those around you will benefit with that. And the 4 that the yogis basically decided on are defined. Well, we'll tell that in the course. For now, what you can know is that all this energy that is released through strong emotions and nervous system activation, it can be the fuel with the right motivation, with a clear why, to develop different reactions to the same circumstances. And we round up that circle because essentially, if you react differently to the same situations, you're reprogramming your nervous system. And essentially, the same situations will make you feel differently. So the strong reactions that you have to certain circumstances in your life right now, they can be dissolved as you shift the way you engage with what is happening right now. So there is an interconnection between our body, the tension stored in the body, the memories we have there, this present moment, your breath and body awareness, and the ability to shift gears and see the things differently. And then obviously the way we engage with the reality, and whether that comes from a place of fear, self-rejection, deep feelings of unworthiness, never being enough, towards a deep satisfaction, a love for oneself, and a commitment to make the most out of this time that we are having, this precious time and energy. What in the end is truly your priority? What truly matters? There's this saying, if you don't remember it, if you don't care about it 5 years from now, then don't spend more than 5 minutes on it. And it kind of makes sense. We tend to spend so much of our mental energy and awareness to worry with things that, are they really such a big deal? Knowing that, yes, the circumstances maybe are not perfect, but we can make the most out of it. And essentially, we can become the masters of our inner world and taking full responsibility with that. And that gives an amazing peace. Because yes, we cannot control other people, we cannot control all the conditions, but we can choose what we do and act in the best of our capacities. And complement all this action with a deep capacity to relax. Because just as everything in the nature, also we humans, once in a while, we just need to be able to fully relax. And the restorative course and practices, they help us to find this deep safety, this deep presence within, and to learn to relax and deepen the quality of our relaxation while also stepping into the world and actions with more emancipation, with more empowerment, with more charge, to not just repeat the patterns, cycles after cycles, years after years, generations, and all of our society imposed onto us. No, it is a deep connection to yourself, an introspection that can help you to show up with and for what is truly important. And we truly hope that with this masterclass you got some answers, and maybe you have some more questions that you'd like to go deeper into. Just know that this is a journey. It is not something that is finished one day to another. It's a lifelong journey. It's a lifestyle. And the key is to spend time with yourself, to get to know yourself, and to reduce the impact of the past, to open and harness the full potential of the present, and to open up for a future where you can grow and evolve and change for the better through the challenges that inevitably are presented in our daily realities. So thank you so much for your trust in us, for viewing this masterclass. You might want to replay it as well, just to get a few things, get inspiration, and we hope to inspire you to join us for a journey of exploration with our deck and with the courses that contain lots of information and tools for you to get started, and obviously be part of our community, share with us so we can grow and inform and learn together. Thank you.